Hey everyone, Mr. Hollywood here from NERDSTASH.com, here to talk to you all about Wizard World Philadelphia. Just wrapped up a little over a week ago, and I gotta tell you, it was a fantastic time. Now, before I get into the event and the interviews that we got for the Nerd Stash, I want to say a couple big thank yous to some different people. The first being the editor of our site, Jeremy. Jeremy works tirelessly behind the scenes at the Nerd Stash to keep the machine well-oiled and running, and through his correspondence back and forth with Wizard World was the reason that I was able to go. So a big thank you to you, Jeremy. I know you do a ton for the site. The Nerd Stash would not be what it is today, obviously without you. So a huge thank you to you. I'm happy to be part of the team, and let's keep it going. The second is Jerry Milani over at Wizard World. He was our press contact for us here at the Nerd Stash, and for me for the weekend. And I got to tell you, it was a pleasure to deal with the entire time. It's such a huge event like that, you really expect people to get agitated and irritable, constantly be bombarded left and right for all the people that are going to be there. But not Jerry. Jerry was nice the entire time. Pleasure to deal with. Jerry, thank you so much for the opportunity for the Nerd Stash for us to attend. The third is the Nerd Stash family. Our writers, our content creators, our Twitch streamers. A huge thank you to all of you. You guys are constantly opening the doors for new opportunities every single day with all of your hard work. I couldn't be more happy to be part of the team. I'm happy to work with all of you. Thank you so much for everything you do with Extra Life and the site, and I really appreciate it. And again, thank you for this opportunity, because without you guys, the site wouldn't be where it is today, and I probably wouldn't have gotten this opportunity. Now, Wizard World ran from Thursday to Sunday, but we, the Nerd Stash, were able to attend a special press event on Wednesday at the Fieldhouse in Philadelphia. Now, the Fieldhouse is a bar, so I was a little bit curious in my mind what this event was going to be like. When we get there, we found out that we were able to interview Sean Patrick Flannery, Jason David Frank, and Bob Gale. Now, Jason David Frank had been interviewed by the Nerd Stash just about a week prior with Kevin the director, so I kind of didn't stand in his line. I focused on Bob Gale and Sean Patrick Flannery. But going to this big event, I got to tell you, this being my first big event, I was nervous. Now, when I did my first Twitch stream ever with Ryan, he told me anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And sure enough, with a big event like this, that's what happened. When we got there on Wednesday, our microphone didn't work. There was a problem with the jack and the cord. For whatever reason, the microphone was very spotty in picking up conversation. Didn't work at all. So when I'm actually interviewing Bob Gale, you're going to see me with my phone like this as I'm talking to him. And that's to make sure that I can properly record his voice in the app. And even then, you're in a bar. There's still a lot of ambient noise. So I was kind of taken off guard. I kind of expected an interview to be kind of off to the side, perhaps, like in a back room, or, where it was a little bit quieter, there was more space. But no, we're interviewing Bob Gale right behind the bar table. So to even have a tripod set up at any point was just ludicrous. You just didn't have the room. So the first person that we spoke to was Bob Gale. Now, before we get into anything with Bob Gale, he's the co-creator of Back to the Future, and no, there will not be a part 4. There's not going to be a part 4 of Back to the Future. It's been said time and time again. The closest we're going to ever get to a part 4 is the Back to the Future game, which took a lot of elements from the idea of a 4th film. I actually reviewed this for the site, and we'll link it somewhere here in the video to make sure you can check it out. Now, Bob Gale did say that there is a possibility, or Universal has brought it forward, that of an animated series moving forward. It was actually done back in 91, 92, where it focused on the Browns opposed to McFly. But there's a possibility down the road, he said, that could come about again. But as far as a live-action movie goes, no. Now, when it comes to the interview, before we even got into the questions, the first couple minutes of the interview is Bob Gale showing me how to use the Flux Capacitor app on his phone. I mean, that to me is an experience that you just can't beat. I mean, as a huge Back to the Future fan, I'm ecstatic thinking about it now. It was just such a cool experience to have him showing me the part 1, part 2, part 3 on the phone, and going up to 88 and all kinds of cool stuff. So that's actually an app. He said it's the best 99 cents you can spend on a phone. Yeah, sure, I agree. In that case, I agree. It was very cool, and that's an experience for me that you just can't beat. No, I was so happy to be there to interview Bob Gale as a huge Back to the Future fan. One of the first questions I asked him was, did you ever see the first Superman with Christopher Reeve? And of course he said, oh, yeah, of course. And I told him, I said, I feel like Lois Lane interviewing Superman right now.
The first Superman with Christopher Reeve.
Which?
The first Superman with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
I feel like Lois Lane interviewing the Superman. At some point, I'm going to ask you, do you like pink?
So in regards to a part 4, Bob Gale talks about the worst rumor that he heard of all time.
The worst rumor of all time was there was a rumor that it was going to be rebooted with Justin Bieber.
Oh my God. There'd be riots in the street. There'd be riots in the street.
That, I would have shot Justin Bieber to prevent that from happening, and it would have been justifiable homicide.
All right, I completely agree.
Now, for those of you that don't know, Bob Gale has actually worked on a number of different comic books, and I asked him, hey, what do you think about that moving forward? What do you think about that comic book genre?
The superhero comic book has gotten to be so inside baseball, if you will. All the weird continuity and the total geek. If you haven't read every comic book in the last 15 years,
right,
you're not going to understand this shit.
Yep.
I can't go there anymore.
Right.
In fact, the reason that I did Spider-Man was because Joe Quesada invited me to be involved with it. Because he said, we're rebooting it, and we're going to try to go back to the way Spider-Man used to be.
Right, okay.
And I said, okay, as long as I don't have to worry about continuity, I'm happy to lend a hand.
I also got his thoughts on the superhero franchise right now on the big screen.
Personally, I've kind of OD'd on this stuff.
Yeah.
And again, the movies are going to be like the comic books. You have to have seen every Marvel movie to make sense out of the next one. And it's like, for me, that's not the joy of going to the movies.
Okay.
And I also don't like the idea that any superhero movie is more than an hour and 45 minutes long.
Yeah, Batman vs. Superman, perfect example. It was like almost a 3-hour film.
What?
Yeah.
No, let's not do that.
Right.
So, I mean, it's all marketing. It's just, I thought the first X-Men movie was great.
Yeah.
I liked the first Iron Man movie, first Captain America movie was really, really good. First Thor movie. But then each succeeding one,
yeah, it just starts to go downhill. Right.
And then, the DC movies, they got no humor in them at all.
Oh, I know. I know. It was a dark movie.
Mark Waid, who he is, right?
Yes. Yep.
I got to know him when I was working on Spider-Man.
Okay.
Because he was one of the writers in the rotating pool of writers. So I emailed Mark after Zack Snyder's Superman came out. I said, Mark, did you actually go see this? He said, he was chagrined, and he said, yeah. He said, it's disaster for him.